Alright, hello everybody, and welcome to the D-Pad. I'm your host Brad Davis, and you're watching a show that's all about video games. This is our 6th episode. For this episode, we're going to start things off with a review of NCAA Football 12. Now, NCAA Football 11 was a solid football game, and therefore many people anticipated NCAA Football 12. So, is NCAA Football 12 a good football game, or is it disappointing? Find out in this review coming up right now.
When you come charging out of the tunnel, 100,000 people will be watching your every move. How you respond to that pressure is what defines you. These are the moments that reveal your toughness, your determination, and your pride. The Roughnecks on the Sooner Schooner. Ralphie charging out of the gate. And Chief Osceola planting his spear. The time has come. Your time is now.
NCAA Football 12 is obviously the follow-up to NCAA Football 11. NCAA Football 11 made the NCAA Football series stop being Madden's little brother, as many would agree that NCAA Football 11 was so solid that the game was better than Madden NFL 11. NCAA Football 12 was greatly hyped by the sports gaming community, with a good part of that being due to how NCAA Football 11 was. So, is NCAA Football 12 the game that many dreamed it to be? No, unfortunately, and I'll explain why later on in my review. The biggest change to the gameplay itself this year is the lack of suction. Players getting sucked into other players and or animations. Suction was something that EA Sports football games have been known for a pretty long time, and the removal of it is very noticeable during gameplay. With this also comes the addition of double hit tackling. Overall, tackles feel more real than last year and actually look like they hurt. Tackles are also more rewarding considering the fact that they aren't automatic like they were in previous years. You have to time your tackles right. On the flip side though, it seems that the removal of suction has made the animations less realistic, even though the game itself feels more realistic in gameplay. You will notice many players sliding and not making cuts. It really stands out when looking at the game during replays and or when watching others play. This has made the running game more fun than last year, but at the same time a bit unrealistic. The other big change that NCAA Football made was in defense. I was happy but at the same time a bit skeptical to hear this, since whenever EA Sports football games have made changes to defense in the past, the defense usually became a bit too overpowering. Madden NFL 2005 comes to mind in terms of this. So, how is the defense in NCAA Football 12? Just like previous EA football games that focus heavily on D, the defensive play in NCAA Football 12 is pretty cheap, at times to the point in which it can be sometimes ridiculous. It's good that passing to the flats is not as easy as it was in NCAA Football 11, and the defense overall should be challenging in my opinion. However, the game has a very strong case of super linebackers. Linebackers are able to make large jumps in the air and or make significant bursts in speed to swap passes down during plays in which you pass to a receiver that's wide open. This seemingly is also due to the poor ball trajectory in the game as well. Also, receivers will drop passes a lot during hits that don't seem big when your team is on offense. On the flip side though, when playing defense, the CPU doesn't drop passes even when you tackle the player with the ball very hard. This makes NCAA Football 12's overall passing game very frustrating. Outside of this, another strange thing I have noticed is that the CPU will make field goal kicks that are 60 plus yards. Last year, the CPU was never able to do this and they would just kick the ball off. So obviously, this was very surprising for me to see in this year's game. Graphically, the game looks pretty good, though at times the overall graphic detail of the game can vary. This is especially true when comparing how the game looks during gameplay with how the game looks during replays. The game looks a lot better during replays. The game has added a few new cutscenes and transitions, but overall, the presentation of the game is basically the same as it was in NCAA Football 11. While Game Track is a good step, the game should have a full-fledged halftime show by now. The commentary is also pretty much the same. While I don't find it to be flat-out terrible, it's definitely outdated and needs to be worked on. Outside of the gameplay, there are many additions made to the game's modes, especially when it comes to the Dynasty modes. The game added a coaching carousel to the Dynasty modes and lets you play the role of a coach, with the game evaluating you on how well your team is playing. With this, the game judges your job security based on whether or not you are doing the things that you promised to do when you signed the contract. This makes you get more involved in the mode. Outside of that, Dynasty mode hasn't made that many changes and still seems to highly favor more popular positions such as quarterbacks, wide receivers, and halfbacks when it comes to recruiting. When it comes to online dynasties, commissioners have been given more options, such as being able to set how everyone in the dynasty is in terms of their coaching. While it's great that online dynasty has so many features and that the online play itself is enjoyable, be prepared to wait a decent amount of time to advance to the next week in your dynasty. The Road to Glory mode of NCAA Football 12 has been improved in terms of CPU play calling, but overall the play calling is still very questionable. NCAA Football 12 has added a feature that many people wanted for years, which is custom playbooks. However, there are many issues with custom playbooks, such as causing the play calling screen to be slower, as well as sometimes making the play screens jumbled and or blank. Until the problems with this are fixed in a patch, if they ever are, custom playbooks have too many issues to the point in which I would even say that they shouldn't be used as of right now. To sum things up, the game's modes obviously have a great number of things to do, but you will definitely sometimes come across strange problems. I and many others have experienced problems with the game freezing and taking you out of menus, in addition to all the other problems that I stated previously. NCAA Football 12 could have been a really good game, but many things put it back from being that way. There have been good additions to gameplay, but at the same time, new gameplay problems have popped up and or have become more significant, which can make the game not very enjoyable to play, almost to the point in which you forget about the game's improvements. While the game made steps in presentation, the game's presentation as a whole is pretty much outdated by other sports games and looks pretty much the same as last year's game. As stated before, the game is pretty buggy to the point in which it might make you question how the problems got past testing. NCAA Football 12 isn't a bad game, it's just that the game should have and could have been a whole lot better.
They go with the back, and he's got room. At the 40, inside the 30, the 10. Touchdown! Huge play. He's been tearing it up in the running game. That carry puts him over.
Alright, well that was a review of NCAA Football 12, and as I said in the review, it's not a terrible football game, but it just has many issues, and overall it just doesn't feel polished. It's not a well-polished football game. Now, if you're still thinking about getting it, and you're thinking about getting it after the game has a couple patches, the problems that I said in the review might not be fixed in the patches. So again, if you're still thinking about getting it, or if you do get it, you're taking a risk. Alright, anyways, to get things on with this episode of the D-Pad, and to continue on with the college theme, what we're going to do next, me and my brother, is have a competition in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4. What we're going to do is have a trick attack battle in the very first level of Tony Hawk 4, which is the college level. Now, my brother is ahead of me by 2 points. He's ahead of me by 1 point. He has 2 points and I have 1 point. So let's see if I could tie things up, or if he could add on to his lead. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to battle. Alright, this is my brother Jordan, and we're about to play Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 for the PS2. You ready? Alright, what we're going to do, as I said, is a trick attack battle. And in trick attack, you have to earn the most points by doing basically the most tricks. And you have to do the most tricks in about 2 minutes. That's the time we're going to do. We're going to set trick attack on. Alright, so let's play. Ready? Alright, let's do this. You stink, dude. Okay, that's how you're gonna do it. Oh, yes. Yes. Yeah, that was a good game. Well, that was the Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4 Trick Attack battle in the college stage. I beat my brother, and therefore I get a point. That time things up. I have 2 points, and my brother has 2 points. We're gonna have future battles, so it's still anybody's game. Anything could happen in future episodes. Alright, and that ends another episode of D-Pad. Hopefully you guys enjoyed watching the show. Until next time, this is Brad Davis, my brother Jordan Davis, and we'll see you. Alright, goodbye everybody.